Warning, censorship. Warning, censorship.
I was photographed by undercover officers kind of walking in and amongst the crowd or just outside of the crowd. And these pictures were taken to my higher ups. What happened when it was taken to my superiors was I was contacted on Sunday, the day before I was supposed to go back to work. When I was contacted by my superior that day, I was told that I wasn't coming to work that day and that as I had allegedly attended a children's rally, then I was charged under the Police Act for describable conduct of the major, the major level, as well as discreditable or insubordination of the major level as I refused to do the rapid testing. CBC and CTV actually, it got leaked to them that there was an off-duty officer. My name wasn't leaked yet, but that means inside the police service, someone went to the media prior to anything going on.
Today, you'll hear from a former Saskatoon police officer who threw in the towel and resigned after he found himself at the receiving end of the unconstitutional madness that many police departments in Canada are continuing to enforce. Drea Humphrey here with Rebel News, and after a pro-freedom group in Saskatoon hosted a kids' fun day at the park, the news had a heyday singling out a couple of the people that were there at the time. Look at this article from CTV. Man spotted in video taken at Saskatoon Children's Freedom Rally, identified as school custodian. Dun, dun, dun. Calm down, CTV. Canadians have a right to peacefully assemble. And if you really wanted to calm those people down who are terrified of any people gathering at a rally that isn't a Black Lives Matter one, then you could let them know about all of the studies that show that outdoor transmission of COVID is highly unlikely. But the custodian advocating for the right for kids to have fun was not the only one who was put on blast for being present while the kids were experiencing a sliver of normalcy at the park that day. Nathan Lynchuk, who was an off-duty Saskatoon police officer at the time, had brought his children to the park that day as well. How dare he? Doesn't he know that normalcy for children is forbidden until everyone and their dog is vaccinated? Instead of talking to Nathan or even giving him a warning, the Saskatoon police chose to come down hard on Lynchuk. They went as far as to charge him and require him to take invasive PCR tests in order to work, even if he's healthy and asymptomatic. I guess it's not all that surprising since this is the same police department that actually releases photos of people peacefully protesting for freedom and calls on the public to help identify them. No doubt so that they can inflict them with fines or possibly intimidate them from even thinking they have rights again. I sat down to interview Lynchuk about how he was punished for his parenting and why he took the stand he did by quitting, and you'll hear from him right after this short message.
You guys, YouTube is trying to get rid of us. They've deplatformed us, and we know we're going to be taken off any second. You have to go to rebelnews.com. We need your phone number or your email so that we keep in touch.
April 24th of this year, I took my children to a kids' day in the park held by the Freedom Rally people who have been protesting in Saskatoon. There was a day there that they were just going to have children play in the park, have face paint, just to let the kids have a normal day because the past 13, 14 months haven't been very normal for them. Mm-hmm. I decided to take my children to this. Upon taking my children, there was a police presence, as there has been at other freedom rallies. However, this one was different because there was no actual speeches. There was nothing like that. It was just a day for the kids to just hang out and have a good time. So from that point, when I went there, obviously knowing the heavy police presence, I was photographed by undercover officers kind of walking in and amongst the crowd or just outside of the crowd. And these pictures were taken to my higher ups. What happened when it was taken to my superiors was I was contacted on Sunday, the day before I was supposed to go back to work. When I was contacted by my superior that day, I was told that I wasn't coming to work that day and that as I had allegedly attended a children's rally. From that point on, They contacted me the next day saying that they wanted to, in order for me to come back to work, I had to fill out a questionnaire, undergo rapid testing in the morning before work, and sit inside the office all day for the remainder of the week. From then on, at that point when I was told that, I obviously refused. I said I wouldn't be doing those things as I was perfectly healthy and felt fine. From that point, my superior said, okay, well, you're disobeying a direct order. And what happened there was then I was charged under the Police Act for describable conduct of the major, the major level, as well as discreditable or insubordination of the major level, as I refused to do the rapid testing. From that point, I knew in order for me to go and fight this and do everything that way with my superiors, they would have to go through a public hearing, everything like that, and it would all be through the media. And I know how kind of the mainstream media is nowadays, and I know that they would just love to slander a cop who would be the one standing up to this stuff. I guess I should also tell you that CBC and CTV actually, it got leaked to them that there was an off-duty officer. My name wasn't leaked yet, but that means inside the police service, someone went to the media prior to anything going on. And it wasn't like I was at this children's event walking around telling everyone I was Saskatoon police. I just wanted to bring my kid to have a day in the park. Yeah. And basically that's where we came to this point. I wanted to resign because I don't believe in what police services and police forces are doing across this country and criminalizing good, normal people, the people who support them the most on a regular basis.
Wow.
That's where we came to.
Yeah. Well, thank you for making that stand. Again, I'm sorry it had to come to this. Now, how did that feel, like knowing that it's, your own team, per se, that kind of, champion what happened to you?
You feel quite betrayed. In policing, I mean, it's a very unique profession in the sense that at any second, things can change very dramatically and very dangerously. And when you got to know, you got to trust your other fellow officers out there. And if there is no trust there anymore, then the job becomes very hard, because if you don't trust someone to have your back, then it can be detrimental to your life, to your health. So, I mean, these are the people who took pictures of me and everything. These are people I've backed at calls. These are people who I've helped in the line of duty, and they've helped me before. But as soon as I shared a different opinion or showed I had a different opinion about something, they were pretty quick to turn that around, and I guess ultimately stab me in the back, really is what it was.
Wow. And as a father wanting to give your child some normalcy, I mean, children need stability, and they haven't been given that for over a year. Suicide attempts from children are up 3 times as much. I'm not sure what the actual suicide rate has been. Things like Tourette's are up in kids. Anxiety issues, all of these things are coming up and coinciding with COVID-19 restrictions. You went outdoors, and when you look at the science, it tells us that there isn't really much to worry about when it comes to outdoor activities. There's been studies as high as 7,000 people looked at, and only 2 they could find a connection of 2 men who had talked outside, and both ended up with COVID. So as an officer, I just feel like you guys have gone through so much. Let's talk about media for a second here. I mean, you guys went through, or maybe are still going through, the whole Black Lives Matter thing. And you guys went from like, yay, let's like applaud our frontline workers, to, oh, all the cops are racist, let's hate them.
Yeah.
And now you're being put in this position where you're supposed to, or expected to, uphold these sort of, in my opinion, tyrannical mandates and laws. So can you just tell us a little bit about how that journey has been, basically all of 2020 and now coming into 2021?
So it's actually been very difficult for me, because right from the get-go, this was something that I knew I wasn't comfortable doing, and I knew I wasn't going to do. I made that very clear to everyone, that I wasn't going to be writing these tickets to normal, everyday citizens who are law-abiding citizens, and I'm not going to make criminals out of good people. So I never personally had to ever write one of those tickets, but like I said, I was very vocal in regards to that. But up until this point, it is funny, like you said, how just with the BLM and everything going in those movements, where we even had our own mayor in our city who sat there and he condemns these freedom rallies and everything. However, last year when we had public health orders not to go out, he himself was out there in the protest, taking a knee with everyone, not social distancing, not doing anything. And it's just, you look at this guy trying to tell us what to do, and it kind of just blows your mind a little bit that you do as I say, not as I do kind of culture we live in nowadays, especially with our politicians. So, like I said, this past year, it's been really hard because you have a lot of officers who believe what's going on, who believe what's being done is okay. You do have other officers, however, I'm not the only one. I know that for a fact, who doesn't believe in doing this and believes that our freedoms and our rights are being infringed on. And there's still a lot of good officers out there. They just need a little more time, need a little more courage to stand up. And I'm hoping that I'll be kind of that little flame that starts that fire and gets things going for people, so we can restore a little faith in the system for people and make all these officers realize that if we say no, if officers and police officers say no, then we're going to be out of this mess really quickly.
Yeah. And yeah, I hope you can be that too. I mean, there are some officers here and there across Canada speaking out. You have the Police on Guard for Thee and the lawsuit going on. So you guys are representing, I'm sure, a lot more officers that are just feeling like they can't speak out. The media, your local media, had some choice names to call you and things like that. So how has it been since you got busted allowing your child to enjoy themselves like children? How has it been in your community? How have people received that information?
It's actually been okay. I'm not on any social media platform or anything, and I do that for a reason, because I know if I read these comments, I read anything that's going to be saying what they're going to say about me, just kind of the haters, I guess you can say. I know it's just going to upset me. It's going to bother me. How can it not bother people? I mean, at the end of the day, all I wanted to do is to share my opinion, share my view, share my story with the country. And because this country's in desperate need of heroes right now. And no one was willing to stand up and speak out. And I'm just holding strong to that conviction at this point. And just in my line of work, I've been called everything under the sun. So it's going to take a lot more than just that to insult me. So.
Yeah. And so let's talk a little bit about the oath that officers have to sign. I don't know, is it any different in the RCMP than being a city police officer?
I can't speak for the RCMP, what their oath is. For mine, I know we swear an oath to Queen, to the law of Canada, and to the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, and to serve the people in the country. So yeah, just seeing that and what's going on in regards to that with these laws and everything, it's just, there's a lot of officers who I guess are just starting to just take orders from above and not actually reading the law, reading into things and seeing if there are trampling on freedoms or trampling on our guaranteed Charter of Rights. The big thing I notice in police services nowadays, and I've seen it kind of said by other officers, is that you have this culture within the police service. I mean, back when you look in the 70s, 80s, that era of police officers were a symbol of hope. They're a symbol of strength, courage. They're a symbol of once the police show up, you're good, you're safe, you felt good.
Yeah.
But nowadays they're turning a lot more into non-discretionary enforced laws that are just put in front of a piece of paper on them, not read them, just say, oh, this is your section number, you have to charge under. You charge these people because they're breaching it. It's not a lot of discretion is getting taken away from officers in that regard. And that's just more detrimental to the laws in Canada and to our rights and freedoms as citizens. So.
And how are your kids doing since all of this happened?
They're missing friends. They are missing school. They're missing how it used to be, the social interaction, everything like that. My daughter only got half a year of kindergarten before we pulled her out and all this COVID stuff started. So she's had trouble dealing with that. And I guess she hasn't really seen what school is really supposed to be like. So, I mean, I guess that's a benefit in that sense, but it's also not a benefit in the sense that it's like that socialization, all that very important stuff that kids pick up at school. They're all suffering. They're all missing that. So they're both hurting, not seeing friends. We're lucky we have a couple friends that are believing the same stuff as us, and we're still letting our kids hang out and see each other. So that's a good thing too.
Yeah, it's a very normal thing. Well, thank you so much for the stand that you're doing. Is there somewhere people can find you? You mentioned you're not on social media, but if anybody wants to, I don't know, kind of get advice from you because of the situation they're in, maybe with their job, how would they be able to do so?
I could just my email would be fine at this point. Something I'm sure I'd probably eventually hear if I'm going to be doing more of this stuff. I am going to probably have to set something up. But like I said, it's just, I'm one of those old fashioned guys who just kind of does things that way right now. So yeah. Well,
thank you so much again for what you did. And like you said, we definitely need heroes. And I think you are one of them. And I mean that. I hope that you inspire lots of people to, talk about the overreach and the dark and dangerous corners we are pushing our officers in, and what we're normalizing for them. It's a very scary thing. So keep in touch. And I hope you and your family have a blessed week.
Awesome. Thank you. You too. Take care.
If you want to help us with the freedom fight, you can head to fightthefines.com. We've helped hundreds of Canadians fight tyrannical fines, whether it is for peaceful protests, attending church, or even charges in some case for things that are popping up in the name of COVID-19. You can tell us your story of a fine there, or you can donate what you can at fightthefines.com.